All right. It is week 14 in CIT 93. And week 14, although I'm recording it right before we go out for break, is actually the week after you get back. And I'm running a little bit behind because normally I have already released content for the following week, but in this class I'm running just a tad behind. What do I mean by that? Is I'm recording this at the end of week 13. But I will have 14 and I vow to have 15 done before I head out. So I was thinking about something this morning, and after I was reflecting on the code that I saw for step 5 for the decision app. And, it's an interesting world we live in because, yeah, AI can give you code. I mean, it for sure can, and you could probably get it to work, and getting it to work is a level of understanding. But for this class, require something a bit different, which is if you're going, this is nothing new, I'm just reiterating it, I guess I understand it, but I also just want to help maybe reframe it. But in this case, right, using it doesn't mean you understand it, and understanding it is really what you want to have out of this class. A decent understanding. And I reflected upon my morning workout because this morning I was really trying to lift some new weights, meaning heavier weights. And it's like coding is like that. I mean, I know that analogy is probably been made 100 times, but it's like anything, the more you do something, and the more challenging it becomes, the better you get at it and the more benefits you get from it. And boy, is this true for coding, because the more I code, the better I understand it, the more I can advance my skill base. And you might be saying, but Rio, I'm not here to be a programmer. True that, I get it. But you are here to give your skill base a level up of knowledge of analysis and problem solving. And if you skip those steps, not only does it hurt your grade, but it hurts your outcome. So the analogy I thought of was like, if I let a robot lift weights for me, I don't benefit from that. I get no benefit. But I laughed as I said this because my Roomba, or my whatever it is, my automatic robot, and I have like 3 in my house for different purposes, right? So do they keep me from doing the work? Absolutely. And so I'm choosing to let them do that work for me because I do that work in other ways. So I just thought, I laughed because I thought, but this is also the way of the world. Anyway, what's my point? My point is just to say, if you use something, I guess here's the deal, and I've said this, so if you use something that is clearly not what we've covered, then it is on you to justify, why are you using it, and why is it better than what you've learned? And in that process, if you can communicate that, then okay, if you are able to articulate it. But if you just put a comment in your README that says, and I clearly know it came from AI, meaning even the comment, it's like, no, that doesn't really show me your understanding of why you use the code. Like one thing I'm seeing that's fairly common is even though we have declared a form in a global, many of you are still doing get element by ID with a specific ID. And my question would be for you, and you've probably seen me ask it, why? Why do that when you already have a reference to the DOM for the whole form, and then within there you can specify the name, or how you've named it, dot whatever. And that is a much better use because get element by ID, if you haven't heard me say this, is an expensive operation. And when I say expensive, over time, as your projects grow, that becomes something you don't want to do more than you need to, right? So this is, again, the understanding of, like, why do that? And generally, the reason why is you've seen an AI generation code do it, and you're like, oh, I'm just going to use it, rather than to say, why am I using it? Okay, so the thing about this is that I have now done 6 technical interviews for this course. 6 different ones. 83% of the students passed. the technical interview, which is awesome, right? And they were like, they were nervous. And a common thing that I've heard that I want to clarify here is like, I don't test you on more current stuff. Now, this could change if you're waiting longer in the semester to do it. But I really go over the basics, like, an array. What's an array? What's an object? How do you update an object into an array? How do you loop over, right? What's an object literal? How do you write conditional code? How do you output to the page? These are the basics that and I haven't listed everything, but I've listed a few, definitely a few things that you want to focus on. And again, going back to the week we did the movie challenge, the couple weeks, good things to think about. If you didn't hear me say that, I'm going to say it here. Now, speaking of the technical interview, right? Because we're heading out to break. Now in spring break, I'm probably going to work I'm going to work this weekend, and I'm going to work a couple of days next week, but then I'm off. So just keep that in mind, right? So that's where using Discord and other things to help you if you get stuck somewhere. So that also means I'm not going to be looking at your submissions. I will be looking at them probably through Monday or Tuesday, but then not after. But my point here is that, if you can see at this point on this Friday how the week we get back from spring break has started to fill up. So if you're possibly wanting to have more than one chance at the interview, you need to see me next week. Because thereafter, it's only one attempt based on the number of people that I need to come see me. Now, here's the other thing, is that when we come back from break at the end of that week, if you're not on my schedule, I'm just gonna put a 0 in your technical interview so you know what that does to your grade, okay? Just so you have an idea about where that's at, so you can plan accordingly. And yeah, you can still do late work. Absolutely, you can do late work, and you'll be talking about this later. Pretty much right up until, I think I give you until the beginning of the last week. But I wouldn't be waiting that long to do it. Okay? Okay, so that's the idea here. Now, and this is really what I've already talked about with the decision apps. And I like that somebody started calling DMAs. So I'm actually going to take that acronym because I love it. But in this case, if I ask you to specifically document something, know what I'm looking for is your understanding and why that code is better than what you've learned in this class. Because typically, the reason I see students using code that we haven't covered is either they have some knowledge and they understand why and have a reasoning and like, this is why I'm trying to achieve this. Most of the time, it's because they've seen it on some kind of generative AI site. Okay, now I think that's all I wanted to cover there. This week, before I get into the graded part, I actually spent a little time just now looking at this week. And I looked at this decision app because I thought, you know what, I need to just make sure I'm clear about something. Is that when you're rendering your input data, right, you should not have your headings listed. And we covered this in the carbon footprint until you have some data submitted. And generally the reason students have that is they end up using add row, and we'll learn add row later. And again, if you wanted to rewrite the way that render is done to take advantage of it, just explain why your approach is better, okay? But in this case, make sure that heading doesn't show up until you have data, right? And again, if I gave you feedback, make sure you fix it. And then here's the other thing. When you're doing the edit functionality, you need to have that item, you need to re-render the table in order for that item not to be in the table anymore. That's kind of the idea of edit, and that's what I said here. Now, the other thing we're going to do this week, and it is, to me, it's like we're transitioning from color code actually coming back, because my lectures will be the rest of this, but the idea of what you're going to be introduced to in this last async await video, where he does actually do a fetch, and we can't do all the work because he's using, I think it was Spotify, But he does use a weather app, and I actually show how to end up getting, I give you a challenge for doing it for Fresno. So, again, we're kind of transitioning back here. Okay, and then next week, we'll return to me doing higher order functions. Something I talked about a couple of weeks ago where students were implementing filter and map rather than to write the code. But it's good to get introduced to these higher order functions. Okay, so that's where we're heading. So for the graded part of this, you're at a great point right now. And I actually just checked the grades for this class. 83% of the students are passing this class. Okay, some of you, yeah, need to do a little work, absolutely, but it won't take a lot for you to get into a passing position. Some of you may be taking spring break to actually prepare or to get caught up. Great idea. I don't make you. I don't put anything or do over break because that's just not the way spring break's supposed to work. But if you're somebody who's behind, spring break is a great time to catch up. Okay. So just having said that, but at this point, and this is the point I'm trying to make here, is that your experience so far, and if you remember back, one of the first attendance posts I had you do was previous students' advice on how to succeed in this course. It's really helpful. And I'm not saying it has to be positive. Like, it's like you're at the point now where what worked well for you, what would you change? Any suggestions? Like you're speaking to future students taking this class. What would you say to them, right? You might say, don't take it. It doesn't offend me at all. Now, I don't want to turn students away, and that's obviously not my goal. But, at the same time, I do require a certain level of rigor. I get that. Okay, so what advice would you give future students taking this course, right? So you at least need a couple of, at least one good paragraph here. And then reply to one student with substantive, right? So you can tell this is pretty short. So anyway, that's your week coming at you. I will also release week 15 before I head out to my own spring break. And I hope you have whatever your plans are, I hope you do well. Oh, I will end with this. I should have started with this, but if you're hanging out this long, you're going to hear it. If I'm ever short with you as far as my feedback, like I just go right into the feedback, and that bothers you, I'm so sorry. It's never my intent. Sometimes, like anything in life, I'm just trying to get through my to-do list, which is my grading list. So I need to stop and I try to say, give you some general feedback and then go into the stuff you need to fix. But I understand, and not that I've had anybody this semester say anything, but more than anything, I want you to know it's never my intention to be short with any of you, because I am grateful for each of the students that come and take my classes. Truly, I am. So, again, apologies if you've ever felt that walking away from reading feedback. All right, have a great spring break, and I'll talk to you later.